Did they make
contact? No, it's pretty close, but this is going to be a drag race.
Look at this.
Moves out to win it. Carl Edwards bumping, dump and run.
Here comes Gordon right up to the bumper again. The bump and run.
There it is.
It made it really turn around, made a Reilly's cage up.
Welcome to the Bump and Run Podcast. I'm your host, Michael D.Y., joined by my two best friends, Matt the Statman Reilly and Erik Daytona Ron. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys had a good Monday. Hope you got to watch the race on Monday. Hope you had to chase Elliott type of winning Monday. He finally got his win on an oval since his championship year. So people online can stop screaming for Alan Gustafson's head online, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. But how the hell are you guys? If you're liking the show, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Podcast available usually every Monday night, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. And every Tuesday morning, video available on YouTube this week. Of course, delayed because we had a weather delay. The race happened on Monday, and we needed a couple hours to process it all in because these guys were still at the race. Of course, we headed down there on Sunday, the Bump and Run Podcast as a whole, with a whole bunch of friends of the show. Shout out to Jay. It was his birthday. Shout out to Justin Pierce. Of course, he was the lead car. I was following him and Statman Matt down there. Daytona Ron and his girlfriend went down. We brought the Shreys, Shredder and Kimmy. They drove in with me, so that was a great road trip companions. Reminded me back in the day, me and Shredder used to take road trips all the time, so it was a nice little throwback. The throwback.
A throwback for throwback week.
Exactly. And we had a great time up until the rain. You guys stayed. I can't wait to hear all about it. But how was the rest of your weekend before that? Because I don't even think we discussed Friday and Saturday. I know, Matt, you were watching the Xfinity race, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But how are you guys feeling on this Tuesday?
I'm feeling great. I finally got to see my man Chase Elliott win live in person. First win of the season, so it was a very important win. God, I'm still living off of a high of this weekend. It was great to finally get down to Dover after, I don't know, I was a child the last time I was down there. So I'm doing great.
Yeah, I was super impressed with Dover. Just going down there, never having been. Dovin, you were never down to Dover before, were you? Was this your first time too?
No, this was my second time to Dover. I was there, I think, back in 2016. But it was just me and my brother. We drove down. We got there. They already were like 20 laps into the race, and we just got to our seats, watched the race, and got out of there. So this is the first time I was actually able to experience Dover and the outside and the fan, fair section and the hospitality of, they had a stage set up, the food vendors, they had a little carnival going on. They had so much going on around the racetrack. And right in the center of all of that is Miles the Monster. And in between there, driver interviews, saw Alex Bowman again for the 800th time this, past month and a half. But the fans, the crowd was great. The energy on Sunday, I wish we got the race in because, man, that felt the energy that was there among that crowd on the outside and inside. It was phenomenal. And you were there for that, Whitey. And I'm sure, it was devastating for you, the rain coming in. But just in general, it was an awesome experience at Dover, let alone the race, which we'll get into. But just the experience being down there, I thought Dover knocked it out of the park with what they had set up for the fans. And I'm glad, that it's still on the schedule and, hopefully it'll be there for quite some time and we could all get back down there and watch a full race together.
In a single day.
Absolutely. That's the thing I wanted to talk about, Erik, just to park on that for a second, is just the experience before the race started on Sunday, right outside the track. There was a country singer, and I apologize, his name is
Jimmy Allen.
Jimmy Allen, who is a Delaware native. He didn't just come up and play like 2 or 3 of his songs.
He played a full set.
He put a full concert on.
Yeah, it was like an hour and a half concert.
And there were tens of thousands of people there watching it, and there were food vendors, and there was the merchandise haulers, and it was shoulder to shoulder for as far as you can see. And then once we got into the racetrack, I don't know how Fox how that came across because Fox is Fox, but it was shoulder to shoulder in the crowds. Now, if you only saw the turns, there weren't a lot of people in the turns, but from turn 1 all the way down to turn 3, it was shoulder to shoulder. It was amazing to see. I think that crowd saved Dover, saved Dover's future, and it was just a really, really great time.
Yeah, I was super impressed with the Midway. Obviously, I can't compare it to any other Dover race when it was independently owned, but if that's how SMI does it at every racetrack, like they are killing it, because like, you know, I'm used to Pocono where you know, there's the haulers and there's stuff to do in the infield on the at night and everything like that, especially Saturday. But it's usually like, you know, 80s cover bands, which are fun. Like, it's fun and everything. But we had like a true national, like, #1 hit making country artist down in Dover. Of course, he's from Dover, so I'm sure he makes an exception for them. But then even there was like, what was it? The Amish Outlaws that were apparently like super entertaining. And then, yeah, just there's tons of food vendors. The food was great down there. Just tons and tons of stuff going on. They had the race day live outside, which I'm glad they're kind of slowly bringing that back into the fold. I feel like that's something that's been missing, where you just have tons of fans crowded around for driver interviews and stuff. It really made me feel like the same vibes I had when we're down at Daytona at just a smaller scale, but really not that much smaller of a scale. It really did feel like a big event down in Dover. And like you said, the grandstands were packed. It was absolutely insane. And even like the turns were pretty full. It was just like near the edges of the end of the grandstands that were kind of like patchy or whatever. But I was looking around, I'm like, man, I haven't seen a crowd like this for really any sporting event I've been to in a long time. So it was really impressive.
I said the best way to put it for me was pound for pound. Yeah. It was the best. It was the best attendance that I've been a part of personally. All of us have been to Daytona. All of us have been to Pocono. Those are bigger tracks, which I've been part of really good crowds at both of those tracks as well. But pound for pound, because this is obviously a smaller track at Dover, it was probably the best crowd I was ever a part of. It was really, really good to see.
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, hit us up in the comments. Let us know how it looked on television. And if you're just listening along, hit us up on Twitter at N Run Pod. And just let us know how the general vibe of the Fox broadcast was. I watched it on Monday. I'm not going to lie, though. I was like, it's hard to get into a race on Monday for me, because like I used up all that excitement, where like I was kind of like on my phone.
Once you get let down for the postponement, it's hard to get back up for it.
It really was. And you want to know what? Like, so Saturday, I got to give a shout out to our buddy Carmen. It was his bachelor party weekend, and because we were going to Dover, he was doing a camping trip at a camp, and since we couldn't do the whole weekend, I just went down for Saturday, and I got a little tuned up, a little more than I should have. And then I had some wicked heartburn all Saturday night. So I got like no sleep, woke up at 6, and then we went down to Dover, and like, I was getting into it. I'm like pumped. But as soon as that rain hit, my energy level was just like dead. And I was like, man, I just want to go home. And the strays that I drove down, they're like, well, we don't have days to take off. Like, we have work tomorrow. I'm like, perfect. I'm ready to get home and go to sleep. It took like 2 hours to get out of the parking lot. Took another like 45 minutes on the highway just to get up to 55. Like, I swear we were doing 20 for a good 5 or 6 miles, and it took a while to get home. And when I got home, I fell asleep. I woke up probably like 8:15, and between 8:15 and 9:15, I'm doing the math. I'm like, well, if I leave by this time, I know I can make it down to the start of the race again for noon. And like, as it was going, I was just like, how exciting would it be if I didn't tell you guys and just showed up and walked up into the seats, you know?
It would have been epic. It would have been epic.
I just picture you guys freaking out and stuff. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to chill on the couch and I'm going to watch it. I got a little sandwich. I ate my sandwich. I watched it. And it was a great race. I thought it was, I think Monday's racing was way better than Sunday would have produced because of the sun and the heat. And I kind of want to know what you guys feel about that.
Yeah, I think it definitely had an effect on it. We were calling on, Sunday. We're like saying, okay, I hope the sun comes out. I hope the sun comes out. We need the sun. We need the sun. We were all talking about it because we knew, and we obviously didn't get any sun. We got rain instead. But man, Monday it was all sun, and I kind of paid for it. I was an idiot and didn't put any sunblock on, and I got toasted up there. So the shower when I got home was a little painful on the old scalp there, but it was a gorgeous day, and I think it definitely allowed those cars to move up the racetrack, move into the middle groove, start diamonding some of the corners like Bowman was doing, and he was doing it so well. He was picking up 2-3 spots a turn sometimes with the runs he was getting. So I think in hindsight now, I think Dover benefited from the race moving to Monday, if you want to look at it positively, like I always try to.
I think they really did. I think the racing product benefited from being pushed a day.
I'll get into my side of it when we get into like the actual race grades and all that.
Now, Whitey, I was curious, just because getting down there was no issue. Getting in there on Sunday for me as far as driving and traffic.
Yeah.
Now, leaving on Sunday, did it seem like you had a hard time leaving on Sunday? Because Monday, getting back to the racetrack and leaving after the race, now I know it was a Monday race.
Yeah.
To me, it was kind of seamless. It was a lot quicker and easier than I expected it to be. And, I had a buddy, shout out to my buddy Billy down there that, that's his track. And, he had a little spot for me if I needed to park there, and a little bit easier get in, get out. And I really didn't need to do that. I thought it was going to be clutch. I have someone down there, but just the regular parking seemed to be okay, and traffic getting in and out. And I knew that was a little bit of talk going into Dover. Sometimes it could be a mess getting in and out. And I thought it was pretty good, but I didn't leave on Sunday. So I'm curious how that was.
So going in, me and Matt came in at the same time. I was following him and a friend of the show, Justin Pierce. And I thought it was pretty seamless getting in there. It took a little bit, like waiting in that single line, but like it wasn't like egregious where we were sitting for like an hour or anything. Probably took maybe 25 minutes or so.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. From the time we got off the highway to the time we got in our spots, it was maybe 20 minutes. It wasn't anything bad at all.
But
it was nice out at that time, so we had the windows down. You're watching the people walking through and tailgating. So
yeah, but leaving, like we dilly-dallied at the track for a while, waiting for hopefully for the rain to stop. And eventually they said like, "Oh, evacuate to your cars and everything." And then so we were sitting I was listening to NASCAR radio, and Claire B. Lang was doing her normal like on track show or whatever in between. And it was probably 6:30 or 4:30 maybe when they called I forget the exact time. It was either 4:30, 5:30.
4:35 probably.
But when she called it, I was like, all right, yeah, I mean, we're going to get going. But like at that point, there was already lines of cars in front of us that were not moving. Now, I don't know if it was the section of the parking lot we were in, but there was zero movement for at least an hour. Nothing was going on. And then we start noticing like some movement behind us. Like people were sneaking through the Best Buy parking lot. Apparently Matt did that. Him and his buddy.
Where I was parked.
Well, yeah. So, so we saw that all happening. So we do a quick maneuver and we kind of get over there. And by the time we get there, the cops had already shown up and they're starting to barricade the spot that people were driving through. But thankfully that put me in a direction to get out. And as soon as I was over there in the right spot where I needed to be, I was out in like 5 minutes. It went super quick. But originally I was parked near the casino, and I think that was the issue because we were probably dealing with some casino traffic on top of, the normal race day traffic and everything. But then once we got onto the, that main street heading to the highway, that probably took another like 40 minutes or so until we were like moving at 60 miles per hour where we could just kind of hammer it down and get out of Dodge. And then
I was just curious in case there's anyone that was hesitating, like, oh, Dover, it's kind of in an area where, highway, both sides.
Yeah.
Like, is it worth going down and driving there? And And from my point, if that is something that's stopping you from getting to the racetrack,
I wouldn't let it.
I wouldn't let it. Right.
No.
So if you were second guessing going to Dover because you didn't want to drive, it was a 3-hour drive for us, and it felt like nothing. It was quick and easy. So I just want the listeners out there, if you ever hesitate to go to a race due to traffic, a lot of times people and fans will blow that out of proportion. So I'm just trying to get people to Dover after that because they put on a hell of a show.
I would say
and I told you guys before we even started recording, like, I'm going back.
Absolutely.
I'm going to see more races at Dover. Especially if it's a sunny day like it was yesterday, and that track gets hot and the tires wear off and it creates multiple grooves. The racing was so much fun to watch yesterday. Like I said, we'll get into it, but it was so much fun.
Yeah, and I already looked at it too. Like, I'm definitely going next year because they have the rain guarantee thing, where since I couldn't make it back on Monday, we could redeem our tickets for next year's event for free. So I'm going to be doing that. I just got to figure out how. And then, which I think is a great deal. I'm pretty sure most tracks do that nowadays. Yeah. But it's just a nice little added insurance, just in case. Because, it is the Northeast. It rains a lot in the springtime and the summertime and the fall time. So, it's one of those deals where it's constantly raining anymore, but it's nice to have that little insurance policy. And really the traffic to me felt like, it felt like regular Saturday busy mall type traffic where you're like, oh, you're trying to go shopping and you're waiting at lights and stuff. It really wasn't bad. So I would definitely not deter anyone from heading down because of that. They really did handle it well. But yeah, just a great time in general. Do you guys want to jump into the NASCAR news, and then we'll kind of break down the race a little bit more from your perspective and my perspective watching at home?
Let's go.
All right. Not a whole lot of NASCAR news. But if you're a fan of NASCAR video games, there will be no NASCAR video game for 2022. Kind of a snafu with Ignition 21. There was a whole mess surrounding the development team. They kind of released a broken game. There's some lawsuits going on with shareholders and some exaggeration over some of the information they were giving to shareholders at the time. So not exactly sure what's going on with NASCAR video games. I would pick up an old copy of NASCAR Heat 5 or 4 if you want to play something. Next piece. Bob Pockrass interviewed Erik Jones, Daytona Ron's driver, and about returning to Petty GMS. He said he's happy there. He's just waiting to get a deal put together. Might be a few months before anything gets done. They just kind of started early talks now, but glad to see he's happy in the direction he's going in. And, of course, another top 10 this weekend in Dover after a great weekend in Talladega last week. More contract news. Silly season. It's starting, baby. Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch still working on contract extension with Joe Gibbs. They said they're closer with MTJ. It's more whether he wants to return or not. Of course, how old is he, Matt, now? What, 42, 41, something around there?
Yeah, a little older than that, I think.
So,
yeah, but yeah.
So, according to what I read, the sponsors are still on board with MTJ. It's kind of whether he's on board with Joe Gibbs and the sponsors right now. So, we should be interesting to see what happens with those two Gibbs drivers, especially with the young Ty Gibbs waiting in the wings for a cup ride. And, his grandpa wants to give him a car, get him in there as quick as possible. Speaking of Dover, SMI, according to the Associated Press, is scheduling to return to Dover again next year. So obviously, I'm assuming they were very happy with the crowd on Sunday and the return crowd on Monday. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And Richard Petty gonna be waving the green flag at Darlington this weekend for the little throwback race. Looking forward to seeing the King. Last time the King was down in Darlington, he was leading the pack in pace laps, and he got black flagged. So hopefully he doesn't have to wave the black flag before that green flag flies on Sunday. And then one last piece of news, of course, something we assumed was going to happen. Denny Hamlin's crew chief and AJ Allmendinger's crew chief, both suspended for 4 races after losing a tire during Sunday or Monday's Dover race. And man, I don't know how funny it was for you guys in the crowd, but I was dying laughing watching that wheel roll off pit road faster than Denny was. It was really entertaining on TV.
I really personally appreciated the AJ Allmendinger tire coming off his car, because that set up Chase perfectly. You know, being a Chase fan,
yeah.
I'll be the first one to admit, if that doesn't happen, Chase probably doesn't win it. It's probably Kyle Busch or Bowman. So caught a huge break there. So thank you, AJ.
And I'm glad you guys got to see that in person, because we didn't see it on the TV broadcast. Clint Boyer and Mike Joy were talking about it for a good 30 seconds, maybe even closer to a minute. And they're showing Kyle Busch's pit stop, and then it went to yellow, and then they're showing a zoomed in shot at Martin Truex Jr. coming around a corner. And then finally we saw a tire on the back stretch, and AJ's car missing a front tire there. So that's just so Fox, you know?
That's the benefit of being at track that I absolutely love, is I am always scanning the entire field, and at a track like Bristol and Dover, where I just was, it makes it so much easier being, you know, at the racetrack, to follow battles, to find those wrecks and see them before anyone else does sometimes. And you might be the first one to notice, and, oh, look at what happened over there. And then everyone kind of looks over there, and, you know, someone else points out, you hear the crowd cheering in turn 2, and it's like, oh, you
start
go
looking
over there. And,
yeah.
you know, at the racetrack, you see those accidents and mishaps a hell of a lot sooner than you usually do on TV. And I noticed that, you know, being at the racetrack, it was unfortunate at the time. You know, he rallied back, but Kyle Larson, I'm watching him come around the turn, and I see him, all of a sudden his wheel is turning right, and he's drifting around that whole entire turn right in front of us. And then I'm like, he's going to save this. He's going to save it.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it went right around.
Yo. And he's just drifting around the corner.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Fox did do a good job of catching that near the end. They didn't see the beginning of the spin, but we saw it. It was actually, I think, coming right out of commercial too. So I kind of lucked out. And then I hurried up. I had Larson in my fantasy team. I put him in the garage for a while, and then I was really paying attention during stage 2. And I'd swapped Daniel Suarez back in, and before stage 2 ended, I go, you want to know what? Larson's speed is still all right. And I put him back in the main lineup there, and I'm glad I did, because he had a top 10 finish and got me some good fantasy points for the day. In fact, I think I came in second in fantasy yesterday. But like you said, third, you came in second. You want to know why? I lost one of the bonus points right at the end, because Martin Truex Jr. got into the back of Ross Chastain and fell back some spots. So I forgot about that. But no, like you were saying, Erik, though, just watching those battles live when I was there, we were probably watching, you know, our guys are kind of far back for my guy for the most part. Your guy for Sunday, he had a great Monday, but we were watching Kurt Busch kind of cut through the field there, battling for like 19th and 18th, watching Corey LaJoie holding those guys up and kind of spreading the pack out a little bit. So it is a totally different experience, especially if your guys not up front all the time. You get to watch them in person and kind of see those battles in the middle of the pack and the back of the pack you wouldn't normally see on television. But yeah, that's all I have. That's all I have for NASCAR news. Somehow we got back on the Dover race. You guys want? I got a real quick NASCAR history, like less than a sentence or two. You want to jump into that?
Let's hear it, white man.
Sure.
All right. The only reason, usually I try to do NASCAR history around the track we've either just been to or we are heading to. But this one was just too good, because today in NASCAR history, literally today, May 3rd, 2015, Dale Jr. won his last race at Talladega. He went on to win 3 races that season. Those would be his final wins of his career. But I always love it when the NASCAR history lines up with the day that we're recording. So I had to give Dale Jr. a little shout out there at Talladega. I know we just talked about him last week in the NASCAR history too, but you know, what's up, Matt?
Erik and I were at that last win out in Phoenix.
Oh yeah, when you guys got thrown in beer jail.
Yep.
That's
Got to see his last win.
And,
Didn't know it at the time that would be his last win, but it ended up being his last win.
And that's one SMI track that we do not endorse. We endorse Dover at SMI, but not Phoenix SMI, because they don't allow beers and coolers into the track. And that's just.
Did SMI own the track back then?
Oh,
that
I
was
don't know.
Ago.
I don't think they did.
Oh, well, maybe there's been changes. I don't know. We'll have to look on the website and see what the policies are. But that's all I have for NASCAR news and NASCAR history. Do you guys want to jump into the Xfinity race? Josh Berry getting his win down in Dover, Delaware. Matt, you were watching the whole race, weren't you?
No. So actually, real quick, just got to do a little brag on myself. I literally just realized right now both my drivers won this weekend.
Yeah.
Been a long time.
Swept the
Going
weekend.
over the show notes, I'm like, wait a minute, because I didn't watch the Xfinity race. I'm like, holy shit! I go, Matt had himself a weekend here. His driver won Xfinity and then Chase won Cup.
Saturday feels like it was 45 years ago.
It really does. It feels like it feels
now. So I totally forgot about that until right now. So hey, great weekend. No, I only got to see, I don't know, the last 30 or 40 laps of that race. We were having appliances delivered on Saturday, so we were dealing with that for a while. So
okay.
By the time we got over to a grandfather's house, I asked to put it on, and I got to see. The only reason I asked to put it on is because I saw Josh was leading, so I was like, I gotta see this if he wins. So got to see that.
Yeah, I was heading to our buddy's bachelor party on Saturday, so I was driving, listening to the MRN broadcast, and during that time when I was listening to it, it sounded like the Junior Motorsports guys were really hooked up. And of course, they had a 1-2-4-5 finish. Josh Berry, Justin Allgaier, Ty Gibbs, Noah Gregson, and Sam Mayer, your top 5 of the Xfinity series on Saturday. And, Dale Jr.'s got that Hendrick affiliation there with the Xfinity Series team a little bit, some Hendrick-powered engines, and Hendrick did really well on Sunday and Monday. It's so weird not just saying Sunday. I keep having to throw Monday in there, so I apologize for that one. It's throwing me off a little bit. But just a good day for those Chevy Camaros out in the first state of Delaware. And, of course, the Cup race, Chase Elliott, leading the day in Monday. We had the highlights: 3 hours, 49 minutes, 39 seconds, 13 cautions for 75 laps, a red flag for rain delayed until Monday, and 17 lead changes among 10 different drivers. Chase Elliott, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ross Chastain, Christopher Bell, and Alex Bowman, your top 5. And I tell you what, Bowman and Bell both saved their day. Bell, of course, had some issues with a loose tire that brought him down, put him a lap down. And I think Alex Bowman was a lap down at a certain point too. Didn't he get put a lap down during those green flag runs, or he had to start at the tail end of the field at some point and then work his way back up?
Bowman,
him and Kyle Busch got off sequence when that caution came out
during the green flag stops. Yeah. So they
were the first 2 down, and then literally as they were coming down pit road, Allmendinger lost his tire. That's what I was just saying before.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that, Chase probably doesn't win that race.
Yeah, so those 2 guys salvaged their days, though, Bell and Bowman. So good to see them getting a top 5, and good for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. too. I'll jump into that in during my checkers and wreckers. But do you guys want to give a race grades?
Hell yeah.
All right, Matt, how about you go first with your race grade? What'd you think?
Yeah, I loved it. I gave it a B+. I loved it. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how it came across on Fox because they have a tendency of missing a lot of the mid-pack battles.
Yeah.
But in person, the racing was fantastic. It literally felt like we didn't go more than a minute or so before one of us in our little group was hitting each other saying, yo, look at that battle. Yo, look at that battle.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, there's a spin. There was just a lot of action going on. The racing, like you said, the sun came out. The entire track was just bathed in sun, which obviously helped the racing a ton. So we got lucky with that. The only reason it didn't get bumped up into that A bracket for me as far as a grade goes is because Chase just kind of, ran away with it. And just because he's my driver doesn't mean that I have to be okay with that. I'm still would have rather seen like a little bit of a battle as far as just an overall racing perspective goes. But those runaways happen sometimes. And so it didn't really move into that A bracket for me, but a B+ is still a solid score, solid grade. And I loved everything I saw yesterday. Good for Dover.
How about you, Erik? What was your race grade?
Yeah, I gave it a B+ as well. And the only reason, again, and I agree with Matt, and I know we both talked about it, coming to the end of the stage 3. I remember looking like, at Matt, I'm going, hey, the end of this race could bump this up to an A right now. We both kind of said this was B+, and, what's this ending going to bring? Because, all day long, there were battles everywhere. And, this is, once again, when you're at a racetrack, I think you could get a better grade out of it just because you see more of the battles. When you watch on TV, and if you might not be seeing the battles, you might be like, there wasn't a lot of passing. There wasn't this. It's hard to pass.
Yeah.
I get that. It was hard to pass, but there was a ton of passing going on. And you could tell what cars were fast and what cars weren't. At 20 laps into a run, you were like, okay, these guys are movers, these guys are comers and goers. And it was just a lot of racing and a lot of action all day long. So the only thing it was missing, like Matt said, was that, nail biting finish or another thing I was kind of curious about, and we all kind of kept track of it all day long, was the sets of tires that these teams had. And if that was going to come into play at the end, it almost did. And I may have wanted it to just to get a little bit more, excitement at the end and give it that A race. And, like Matt said, obviously Chase won and you want to see that, but you also want to see a good racing battle at the end for that win. And if that tires, situation could have came into play, it might have been a little more interesting ending. But overall, you couldn't ask for anything better, especially on a Monday race. I just thought it was excellent. So I gave it a B+.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up those tires because I'd completely forgotten about it when I was doing my show prep today. That was a big part of the broadcast where they were talking about, Kyle Busch had used an extra set of tires more than everyone else had, and they were kind of on a different pit strategy just due to circumstances and everything, and whether the tires were going to last. Even Justin Haley at one point, he had stayed out instead of pitting, and then, he was holding on for a while, then all of a sudden he just faded out of nowhere and dropped probably like 15 spots. And then you start seeing other guys like with cording in their tires and everything where just the sidewalls were really getting torn up. Even Kyle Larson, I was really nervous about Kyle Larson. His tire gave way a little bit and was ripping up the front. I didn't know if that was going to affect his the air of the car. My guy Tyler Reddick, he had some cording. He had a pit under green because of it, kind of screwed his whole day up. But he had the same thing where the rubber from the tire was slapping the side. I was waiting for it to start destroying that composite body and everything. So I'm glad you brought that up because that was an interesting aspect to watch from home. They really focused a lot on tire wear and everything. But I think my race grade is going to show the discrepancy in being at the track versus watching at home. I'm just going to give it a B. I thought it was a pretty good race, probably the best Dover race I've seen in a long time. I think this package was really good compared to the packages we've had the last couple of years where short track racing was not that great. Sunday, I don't think was the best. Like I said, Sunday, we were watching a lot of mid-pack battles because that was really the only thing that was going on. Out front, Denny would kind of jump into the lead after Chris Buescher kind of lost that lead after 30 laps or so. Denny dominated the next 40 or so where, I felt like he had a 15-car lead in front of second, and then second had a 10-car lead in front of third, and then third, fourth, fifth were all stacked up. So that was kind of depressing to watch on Sunday, I think because of the temperature and everything. And then Monday just felt like a completely different race where the track was warm. It gave so many different grooves to watch. There was a lot of battles. Of course, Fox wasn't showing all the battles you guys were seeing, but we did get to see some pretty interesting battles in the middle of the pack. So I thought that was pretty good. So yeah, just solid B race from me watching at home versus you guys.
Looks like 15,000 or not necessarily all 15,000, but 15,000 people voted on Gluck's poll and 80% said yes. Now, we do have to do the grain of salt thing because it was Chase Elliott who won. You always have to kind of factor in who won the race.
You'll get the influx of Chase fans voting.
Right. But hey, it was a good race. I don't know how you can say it wasn't.
Yeah, I think
wonder for a Monday race what that poll, if it shows like 80% for a Monday. I think that's really, really good for a Monday race. I think people tend to shit on it a little bit when the NASCAR calls it and it goes to Monday. You get some of those people that just vote no because they got angry.
Or they couldn't watch it because they had to go to work and everything.
Right. So I think 80% for a Monday race from that poll. I think Dover nailed it out of the park.
Yeah, I think it was a great weekend down there. I mean, plus going to the track, it automatically, makes everything feel better too. I was kind of depressed watching it on Monday. Like I said, you kind of get fired down after the rain delay, and it's hard to, bring yourself back up. But by the end, I was really enjoying the race, even though my guy wasn't doing very good at all. Just a bad weekend in general for him. But speaking of bad, you guys want to jump into the checkers and wreckers, the good and the bad of the weekend?
Sure.
All right, Erik, let's start with you. What's your checkers and wreckers for the weekend?
So my checkers, I kind of have two checkers and we kind of touched on it. The crowd on Monday is kind of like my alternate checker because it was just phenomenal going back into that racetrack, seeing all those fans come back on a Monday.
Yeah.
When it got postponed and we tried calling for a hotel, the lady at the front desk said that within 15 minutes they went from 35 available rooms to 0. And that was just a one hotel we tried calling. So there was good enough action on Sunday and good enough turnout that those fans decided to stay and come back on Monday. So I had to give a shout out to the race fans for sticking it out, coming back on Monday. And my other checkers, it was just amazing to see. Erik Jones hitting that 22 car, putting him out of the way, into the wall, ruining that 22's day. That made my day. And the only thing that would have made it better is if Kimmy and Trey stayed and I got to look right at Kimmy and say, ha, ha, ha. Yeah. Get out of the way, Logano, you scumbag. You're slow. You're holding everybody up. Guess what, buddy? Move out of my way. So, seeing Erik Jones get a little aggressive, I've been calling for a few years out of him. You've been in this sport for a couple years now. You earn your respect out there and don't let these people push you around. You're out there. You're faster than he is. Get out of the way.
Ty Dillon's rubbing off on him. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
As a matter of fact, Erik and Joey had words after the race. I don't know if they showed it because everyone was fixated on Logano or was fixated on MTJ and Chastain. But
no, they didn't show anything.
And Erik was watching. I'm like, dude, take the binoculars because if they start swinging at each other, I want you to be able to see it. We were about a half mile away from it. So
well, it just so happened that at the end of the race, Erik Jones was right behind Logano coming on a pit road when they ended. So they parked right next to one another. And I knew, I'm like, oh shit, they parked next to one another because Logano, the next time he was lapped and Erik Jones is coming around, he was in 6th at the time. Yeah. And so Erik is coming around, lap car Joey Logano. Logano blocked him. Logano threw a shitty block,
move.
Saying hey, I'm upset with what happened. And I expected it to happen, and it did. He didn't wreck Erik. He didn't, wasn't that egregious, but he definitely tried to get in his way and make it hard on him a little bit. So I'm like, ooh, at the end of the race, I took Matt's binoculars, and they talked for probably a good 2-3 minutes, and you saw a couple hands explaining what was going on and how it all went down, which I'm glad they got that solved and taken care of. I don't know the context of what happened and what was said, but I do know they at least talked after the race. But man, it was good to see him taking charge on the racetrack. And man, there's nothing better on a Monday than seeing that 22 car smack the wall.
Yeah, and for anyone that might be listening for the first time, our friend Kimmy, Erik's cousin's wife, his cousin-in-law, she's a big Joey Logano fan, and Erik grew up a big Matt Kenseth fan, so there's bad blood between the two drivers dating back a long, long time. So that rivalry moving on to Erik Jones possibly. I love to see a tradition continue on for the next generation. What's up, Matt?
I have a little bit of, I guess, breaking news. Maybe you guys saw this. It came on right before, literally, Pacras tweeted it like right before we started. I don't mean to derail the show here, but Bob Pacras tweeted out about the suspension of Denny's team. He goes, weird deal on NASCAR suspensions on the 11 car. NASCAR suspended Blake Houston, listed as the front tire changer, even though Mike Hicks, the rear tire changer, was the one who lost the front wheel with the new choreography where like they go all the way around the car.
Yeah. So
NASCAR says it is suspending who is listed as the front changer
and not the
actual
situation. Person that did it.
So Couch Racer commented and made a really good point. Couch Racer is they're the guys from the Door Bumper Clear podcast. Made a really good point. List your shock specialist as your crew chief. It'll save you a lot of headache when the next wheel comes loose this weekend.
No,
that's
for real.
Such a weird, stupid rule by NASCAR. That might be my new records for the weekend.
No, that is really dumb, especially now. Now it just shows a loophole that teams could take advantage of. They could list their hauler driver as a crew chief if they wanted to. You know, that's oh man, I don't know.
I'll tell you what, you didn't derail the podcast because my Wreckers is 23-11 and Denny Hamlin. You know, it just Joe Gibbs and Denny alone, you could say how bad he's struggling this year. Has that win, and thank God he has that win because everything other than that win has been a complete disaster for Denny Hamlin at 11 team.
Yeah.
And that's carrying over to 23-11, the team he owns with Kurt Busch and Bubba Wallace. And yesterday, you know, Dover he wasn't any kind to that team and helped them get out of that slump at all. You know, Denny alone loses that tire and pissed me off. You cannot still be losing tires at this point in the season, let alone a big team like Joe Gibbs. And you know what? Bubba Wallace lost the wheel, and that's Denny's team as well. So you have Denny in 23-11. Something is wrong there. I don't know if they're frustrated or what, but I got to wreck them and that whole Denny and 23-11 rough day. Kurt Busch into the wall, spun, ruined my fantasy day. But Bubba and him, like, they started out good in the first couple, and I think that whole Toyota camp in general is just hit and miss. They're not in sync, and I think they have a little bit of trouble on their hands, and I don't know what it's going to take to get them out of it. I thought a couple racetracks they've already gone to were perfect for them to elevate them out of this hole and slump and whatever bad juju they have going on around them that they need to get rid of. Man, is it still hanging around?
Oh yeah, especially. I was going to say, especially Denny, because to go from Sunday where you're dominating and leading a whole bunch of laps until the rain comes, and then you move to Monday, and you let a pit road mistake put you in the back, a lap down, and then you're finally fighting your way back. You're on the lead lap. You're making up ground, and then you get taken out essentially by Cody Ware spinning by himself. Nothing Denny could have done there, but it's just like the hits keep on coming. And I saw some speculation, and this is something I speculated last year with the old car, you know, where we're like, yeah, it's Joe Gibbs affiliate, but like, how much is Joe Gibbs having input onto their cars? I thought last year 23-11 was definitely just the old Front Row Motorsports team, you know, just old chassis, new bodies, and old motors, you know. But now we have the next gen car. You know, we're supposed to be on this even playing field, and Toyota besides Martin Truex Jr., who seems to be pretty consistent, and Kyle Busch, who, he has his win and he's been running up front the last couple weeks really well. Other than that, man, they've been really struggling. Christopher Bell's been doing good the last couple weeks, but early on in the season, I felt like they were in major trouble. And Denny in 2311, they're still in major trouble,
It just seems like with 2311, I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch the actual pit stop of when the tire didn't get secured correctly. Did you guys get a chance to watch that?
I did not.
I did. I never saw the lug nut fall off the gun or anything though.
No, right. No, I didn't either. But what my point with that is Whitey, if you noticed it, my takeaway from all of it was that they're just not on the same page. Like that pit team or that pit crew just didn't seem like they were on the same page. So what happened was, Erik, is it was just a typical, the jack got lowered before that front tire changer.
Oh yeah, and they waved them out.
Yeah.
Well, they waved him out. The rear tire changer is celebrating like we just killed that pit stop. The front tire changer, if you watch that video, was like trying to slam on Denny's car, like, yo, don't go anywhere. Yeah. And he was like throwing his arms up in the air because he knows what just happened.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And then the tire came off shortly after that. And it just, to me, my takeaway on the outside looking in was like, ooh, those guys aren't on the same page.
No.
Like that. I don't know if they're not taking it seriously at the shop. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I'm not inside those walls, but just it's their performance is not there.
So I was listening to Sirius XM Channel 90 NASCAR radio, the morning drive this morning, and a couple callers called in and complained about, tires falling off. It's a next gen issue and everything. And it might be, and that's what I was going to say. Mike Bagley, the bagman who, he was broadcasting the race for MRN. He said, or is it the pit teams need to slow down and make sure they're getting the lug nut on, because they are quicker pit stops. What did we see with Denny last week in Talladega? They rushed a pit stop and they didn't fill his tank with gas, and he ran out of gas with 3 to go, and he had a pit. Like that ruined his day. So
JGR is usually known for having great pit crews too. So it's weird. You would think, hey, we're 12 races into this season now. We're 3 months into the season.
Yeah.
There's been plenty of time for them to practice throughout the weeks and whatnot. They're not meshing. Maybe Bagley's right where they're rushing through it, and it's hurting them right now.
There's definitely a problem in Toyota's camp, and I feel like we're too far into the season where they could just say like, oh yeah, it's coming. Like, no, you needed to fix it like last week and the week before that, and really get on top of it. But
the old adage is like, you usually want to be good by the time the summer starts. Well, the summer officially starts in my mind, it officially starts after Memorial Day. So that gives them a month until we're into June. So they've got a month to kind of figure it out so they can roll into the summertime on a positive uptick.
And I hope they figure it out, because I had high expectations for Kurt Busch. I had high expectations for Bubba Wallace this season. And we always have high expectations of Denny Hamlin. He's always in the mix in the championship 4. And right now, I feel like he's going to be one of those, round of 16 guys that doesn't even make it to the round of 12 the way things are going. It could change.
Denny?
Yeah. I mean,
wait, it's going right now. He's not going to make the playoffs.
Well, he already has the win.
So never mind.
Yeah.
Take that back. I forgot he won the race. Yeah, he did win a race.
But
right.
But he's 25th in the point standings right now, maybe 24th. I haven't checked today, but a couple more faded spots, couple more DNFs. You're hanging on that 30th place spot. I don't know if it'll happen, but you never know. Crazier things have happened.
I'll tell you what. I don't know if it's me, but I definitely may have put a bad, jinx on Gibbs, because, I was kind of pissed off when Erik Jones left them, and not left them. They kind of booted him for C-Bell. And, I was, devastated about that. And we talked about it on the show here when it all went down. And, I'm grateful for you two for kind of pumping my tires at the time and kind of, helping me look at the positive side of it. And here we are 2 years later, and I couldn't be happier where Erik Jones is at with Petty GMS versus Gibbs. Like, Gibbs is shit in the bed right now. And Erik with Petty GMS is running, he's having one of the best seasons that he's had in probably the last 3 years. So, man, in hindsight, this whole him, getting booted from Gibbs, it's the best thing that's happened to Erik Jones. So I'm grateful for it. That they're having these mishaps because, man, I was devastated when he left because when you leave a team like Gibbs, you expect, Gibbs to be winning and be up front every weekend, and they're in kind of a slump. So I'm kind of grateful that EJ was out of that 20 car.
When you're in the back, there's only one place to go, and that's further up. And when you're up front, there's only one place to go, and that's further in the back. And
right.
And we're seeing some shifting right now.
Where does Rick Ware Racing fit into that adage?
I mean,
when you're in the back, you just kind of stay in the back.
No, if you look at Rick Ware, they're doing better than they did last year, even though
Cody Ware causes an issue every goddamn race.
Ryan Preece was in the top 15.
Yeah.
In the 15 car.
They have that second car you got to pay attention to.
I had him in one of my fantasy lineups, or not fantasy lineups. I had him in one of my DraftKings lineups. Trust me, I took him because I thought he was going to do okay.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, Cody Ware's in 32nd place, but Harrison Burton, the rookie's in 31st. So, I mean,
I don't want to hear you guys defending Cody Ware.
I'm not going to defend Cody Ware.
Save me.
I'm not defending Cody Ware. I'm defending Ryan Preece in Ware car running in top 15 at times, showing good promise.
That's just who did Boyer run for while he was waiting to go over to Stewart Haas? Remember that?
It was Scott
H. Scott Motorsports.
H. Scott, yeah.
That's what I feel like Preece is doing right now. He's just buying his time until Stewart Haas, makes it official in the 10 car.
Well, yeah, because they have the Stewart Haas affiliation now, so they just want to make sure he's getting a little bit of seat time, keeping him up to snuff for that 10 car. Possibly, we'll see what happens. You never know; things could always change.
What we think is going to happen.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right, Matt. How about you? What's your checkers and records for the weekend?
So my checkers goes to Marcus Smith. He's the president and COO of SMI, which owns Dover Motor Speedway and a handful of other tracks. And so you guys already know, obviously, Erik, you were there. Whitey, we told you about it.
Yeah.
Something that I didn't really see a lot of publicity on social media, and I think it deserves all the publicity in the world. Marcus Smith, the guy is worth an extraordinary amount of money. He owns all these tracks. He's the boss around these tracks, Yet on Monday, when these fans are coming back into the racetrack, who was at the gate scanning tickets for fans so they can get into the track faster? Marcus Smith. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I know that happened because he scanned my ticket. It was really cool. We saw him.
He busted your guys' balls a little bit too, didn't he?
Oh yeah, so we were walking in, and we were gonna go to a different gate. We were just kind of walking past that one, and I'm like, holy shit, that's definitely Marcus Smith.
Yeah.
Let's go into this one, right? There at that time there wasn't a lot of people in line yet, so we went in, and he was busting some guy for wearing a Denny Hamlin shirt. I think he said something like, "Oh, is he gonna be speeding on pit road or something?" And then our buddy Justin Pierce was wearing. Justin's a big Bowman fan. He said something to him like, "Oh, what is he going to back into a win today?" So he was ribbing fans as he was scanning the tickets, and so I just wanted to take an opportunity to just thank him. I said, "Buddy, I know who you are." I said, I recognize you. I know who you are. I think it's really cool that you're doing this, and it's really neat to see. And he just said something like, "I love doing this. This is the easy part of my job, getting out here and getting to talk to fans and bust your guys' balls and stuff." So I just thought that was a really, really neat thing that he was doing there.
Do you think there was some ulterior motive there, though, to see what the Monday crowd was like for Dover?
Could have been a publicity stunt. It could have been, him down there for sure, seeing what kind of crowd was coming back. I try not to be cynical. In situations like that, just because I want to believe the good in people.
Yeah.
So, he's never given, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's never done anything to me where I can't give him that benefit of the doubt that he was just down there doing the right thing. I think somebody around him asked, like, "Oh, why are you doing this?" And I think I overheard them say, I think I overheard him say, like I said, what he told me was he likes doing it. But
Yeah.
I think there was also like I don't. I
They're
think they
probably
had a problem
shorthanded
with
a
lot of
little
the
bit
workers
too.
getting back in on Monday. So
Yeah, because I mean, most of those workers scan tickets. Like they probably have regular day jobs. They can't take a Monday off to go scan
Yeah.
tickets. It's probably like they're like once once it used to be twice a year thing where they would go down on the track, spend an afternoon, scan tickets, and make however many dollars they were paying that day. You know,
like Erik did security for Pocono the one year. It's probably something similar to that, where it's just a third party contracted job, come down, scan tickets. So
yeah,
I think that they had a problem getting some of the workers back on Monday. So he said, you know what, I'll come down and do it. And just from a business side of things, that's how you set an example when you're a leader within the industry. And I thought, again, it was just really cool. So I had to give that my checkers.
no, that is really cool. How about your records for the weekend?
Well, my records actually inadvertently is going to be the same as your records. So I hope you don't mind. We can both kind of talk on it now.
That's okay.
It goes to Team Penske. They had an awful weekend. Blaney with the 26th place finish, Logano with the 29th, and then Cindric 36th. He was last. And then even if you want to lump Harrison Burton into that, Harrison Burton's been having an awful season. He finished 24th. And just to dig even a little deeper, I love the loop data, so I even looked at that. It's not just sometimes, that the finishing position doesn't always write the whole picture of a driver's day, but the loop data certainly does. Blaney's average driving position yesterday was 18th, which is so unlike him. Logano's average position yesterday was 26th, and then Cindric was obviously, he was knocked out early. He only ran 96 laps. His average running position was 36th, but their driver ratings. Blaney had a 67.6 driver rating, which was the 15th best, so kind of in the middle of the pack. Cindric was 46.9, 26th best, and then Logano had a 39.5 driver rating, which was 31st. So just an awful overall day for Team Penske.
Yeah,
I remember turning and looking at you, Matt, and going, what is wrong with Blaney today? He's just having an awful day. He came down pit road in the beginning of the race, and it just seemed like once that happened, he could never get back up front, could never get back on the same strategy, and just struggled all day long. And we had noticed that during the race, and obviously Erik Jones punted the 22 car, but he wasn't running well to begin with, and that's why Erik moved him, because like Whitey said earlier, we were watching our drivers from, I would say, 18th to 21st. And they were battling all day long right there. Boom, boom, battling. And Logano was behind them. So, Penske struggled all day. And Cindric, devastated because I had him in fantasy. But, Penske, I'm kind of enjoying it, though.
Yeah. I don't mind it. I would like to see Blaney run a little bit better.
Right.
Yeah, just not the performance, especially Ryan Blaney, that we've been used to as of recent. And Joey Logano was struggling because, like, I feel like on Sunday when the rain was coming and everything, like, he would be just in the way 3 wide, like getting stuck places and just kept falling back more and more spots. Just not the day Penske wanted to see. So yeah, I also gave them my records, and then my checkers. It goes to Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who, if you listen to this podcast last year, I feel like we used to talk about Ricky all the time just because of the improvement we had seen in his driving style. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., real aggressive guy, always up front during super speedway races, usually ends up causing a big one because he's a little too aggressive. But those are usually his opportunities to win, especially when he was with Roush, and now especially now that he's in a lower funded team at JTG Doherty. And last year, the last 2 seasons with JTG Doherty, I felt like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. really came into his own in protecting his equipment, because they were a lower funded team. They needed to take care of the cars more than a Roush did. And I saw Ricky maturing, and I was really proud, and I was really excited for him to go into this new year because I thought maybe Ricky could run in the top 15 and the top 10 more consistently. And so far this season, he's running worse than he did all last season. All last season, he ran in the top 20, top 15, around there. And this season, he's running 30th, 31st, 29th, 28th if he's lucky. And then just to see him run second yesterday, I really enjoyed it. I guess I'm a closet Ricky Stenhouse Jr. fan, but I just hope that momentum keeps going. You know, he's in the position where even if he wins, he might not make the playoffs because he's on that bubble of 30th. And it's just unfortunate because I think he has a lot more talent than what we're seeing out of him right now. So just that's my records for getting that solid second place finish. But that's all I have.
I had a question for you guys. Just going back to Blaney for a second here, is he's only got, and I say only, but he's got 7 wins in the Cup Series. He's been a full-time regular for 7 years now, I think 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah,
he's been a full-time Cup regular. At what point do we start talking about like his performance being underwhelming? Or is it too early in his career to jump to that?
Oh, it's way
I think it's
early.
way too early.
He's top 3 in points right now. I think he's second behind Chase in points.
True. He just that's fair enough. I just thought about that just off the cuff here because we were just talking about him. And I think I personally, feel it because at the beginning of the season, I said that he was going to dominate this year and then he was going to be our champion.
Yeah,
he did not won a race yet. It's a little bit of alarming, but like he's running well. He just can't put a full race together. And it seems like that's kind of been his MO for a few years now.
Looking at stats right now, I always like to look at top 10s compared to the amount of starts a guy has. He has 102 top 10s, 240 races over 9 years. That's 41% of his races is in the top 10.
Okay.
I wouldn't
almost half.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that underwhelming.
Right.
Especially since he was with the Wood brothers for the first half of his career. With Penske, he's never finished outside the top 10 in the points standings in the championship points. And like you said, we did call him as an early points favorite or an early championship 4 favorite, an early champion favorite. And I mean, yeah, he finished 26th in Dover yesterday. But last week he had 11th in Talladega, 5th in Bristol, 4th in Martinsville, Richmond 7th, Coda 6th. Atlanta was a bad finish. He had 17th. Las Vegas, he had 36th. And California, he was in 18th. But other than that, he finished in the top 5 at Daytona and Phoenix. So I think, we saw a couple little rough patches. And then
fair enough.
I would
and thank you for pointing all that out. That is helpful. I was just thinking about it like, man, he hasn't won yet. I thought he'd have
a win by now.
Win, and he hasn't, and it seems like he can't finish. But like he's finishing, he's just not getting wins because wins are hard to come by.
Compare it to anybody, I compare him right now where his career is at, and it's better than this driver I'm about to say. But I think it's going to turn into this driver. Is Martin Truex Jr. His career is kind of the same way where, man, Martin's, he's good. He's got all the talent. He's up there running, second, and he's in the top 5. And it's like, when is he going to get this win? And, he was over at Furniture Row in the 78 car, and, he got them the wins over there. And then, it seemed like once, something clicked, then it all came into play for Truex Jr.
Yeah.
And the championship came from there, and the wins, and now it's the Truex who we all know who dominates. Yeah. But you go back 10 years ago, that's not the Truex that we all know. No, so yeah. I could see Blaney's career kind of going that same way where, okay, first 10 years in, we all know he's got the talent. He's got some wins. He runs top 5. He's doing well. And I just think in this next 10, you're going to see the wins be more frequent and the championships, closer than they ever were.
I hope so, man. He's a good ambassador for the sport. He's got a great personality. He pulls in fans. So I like to agree with you there, Erik.
And another thing to add, keep in mind, he has a brand new crew chief for this year. Todd Gordon retired at the end of the season. So, I mean, it's still a fairly new team from the outside looking in at this point. And I think Erik makes a good point. I feel like Ryan Blaney isn't super flashy. So you kind of forget about him when he's not winning. and he's just quietly getting top 5s and top 10s. And then when he has a bad day, then you're like, oh, wow, he had a bad day. But like, how often are you saying that, you know?
The same as Chase Elliott, and they just happen to be good buddies. So I think they feed off of each other, and they know they're great race car drivers. So, and with them hanging out, I think, that feeds off of one another. It's like, the wins aren't coming, but dude, we're 1 and 2 in the points. Yeah. Hell yeah. Don't worry about that. And I'm sure they pump each other's tires like we do with one another. And they're just cool, calm, and collected. They don't let anything get under their skin. And I think that's coming from the lineage of race car drivers. I think that helps them not get bent out of shape and let stuff stick in their head and hold grudges. And they just, hey, they know it's racing. This is part of it. It's early. We'll work on it. We'll get to it. And, end of the season playoffs come around. Then they really turn that dial up and the focus factor really comes in.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree too. I feel like all Penske kind of comes alive during the playoffs too. So I wouldn't get too worried about him just yet. But that's all I have for my checkers and wreckers. Do you guys have anything else to add? I had a couple race notes. We already talked about Denny having a dominant car on Sunday, then falling apart on Monday. Kyle Busch, another great run, led 103 laps until a poorly timed caution put him a lap down during a green flag pit stop. He rebounded for a 7th place finish, so good for Kyle. A fun fact, first time he's ever lost a race on his birthday in the Cup Series, so I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought at one point he was going to pull off 3 for 3 and be the only driver to ever do that one. Ross Chastain, I know she just showed us once again he belongs in the Cup Series and where he's at right now, leading 86 laps, finished in 3rd. Of course, a little dust up with Martin Truex Jr. Near the end there. We'll talk about that in the pick lane segment, I think. And then Alex Bowman salvaged his day. But that's all I really had for race notes. Anyone else stand out to you guys that we haven't talked about so far?
One other driver, but I think we kind of solved it amongst the three of us on Monday between me, Matt, and Justin was William Byron. I'm like, man, he struggled all day, and Justin pointed out, he's like, well, that's a backup car. Like, that's just a parts car, most likely. That probably wasn't race set up or anything to go for Dover. And, he was just in and out of the pits all day long and just really, really struggled. And at one point I threw the tinfoil hat on as to maybe why. It's a backup car. He already, smashed one car. It's sketchy on that racetrack the way it was. Just wheel that thing home, Slick Willie 2 Clocks.
Just get home.
That car back to Charlotte in one piece, and don't worry about the finish. They're chalking this one up as a loss. Who cares? Let's not wreck another car. But that was kind of devastating for me to see because, man, do I love that flat black Raptor paint scheme that he was rocking.
I just say that, like, the Slick Willie 2 Clocks is my it's my favorite nickname of anybody ever of all time.
Yeah.
It is every time we say it, it catches me off guard and it just makes me chuckle.
I really hope we could get it to catch on somehow. We gotta start tweeting it at them and tweeting it at people, like hashtags Slick Willie 2 Clocks. But I agree with you, Erik, man. Of course, last week during the pick segment, I picked him. This was before practice or anything. This was last Monday on the podcast. I picked him as my pick to win. We were heading back to a concrete track. He dominated at Martinsville. Of course, different weather conditions, different track layout and everything. But I had high hopes. But like you said, it was a parts car. They didn't even fully wrap it. I thought it kind of looked cool with the white top and the black sides. It gave it a little extra character. But I'm sure they just kind of worked all night, threw a setup into it, and prayed for the best. That car showed up at the track without a motor in it. So how long did it take to get the motor hooked to the transaxle and all that stuff? That was probably the bulk of their priorities in the garage on Saturday night. Just devastating to see it happen during practice. My guy had some issues during practice as well. Just led to a bad day, and the trouble keeps on falling on top of you when you're in those kind of positions. You know what I mean?
One thing I also wanted to bring up too is something we really didn't talk about is our pole sitter Chris Buescher, the 17 Fastenal Ford.
Great day.
Yeah.
One thing I try to pride myself on doing is when I'm wrong, I'll admit that I'm wrong and I'll man up and own it. And I said to the guys, I know I said it to Justin on it was still on Sunday. I'm not sure if I said it to you guys, but I said I bet you that he doesn't finish inside the top 10. He'll start, and it's one of those deals where he just had a fast, good qualifying trim.
Yeah, you said like, I bet you it's all qualifying.
He's gonna fade back. He's gonna end up 18th or 17th, and that's just gonna be where he ends up. Dude, Chris Buescher was inside the top 10 the entire day.
Yeah,
and he finished 8th, and he hung up in there, and he proved me wrong, and it was good to see. You know, that's another. You said you're kind of a closet Ricky Stenhouse fan. I'm kind of like a closet Chris Buescher fan. I mean, he does don the Fastenal blue, so that's cool to see. But even before that, you know, he's just a hard-nosed dude. He's a former, just like Ricky Stenhouse. He's a former Xfinity Series champion.
Yeah.
So he's a good racer, and he had a really good day yesterday. I think he deserved a shout out there.
Yeah, and if you haven't picked up from it, Matt is employed by Fastenal.
Yeah,
but
so I'm contractually obligated to just say what I just said.
Just like we're contractually obligated to only praise Pocono being Pennsylvania residents, Matt being an employee of Fastenal cannot talk shit on Chris Buescher and that 17 team. No, he had a great day. You know, starting on the pole, finished in the 8th place position on 2 different days too. You know. How many times do you see a guy do great during one race condition, and then the next day you come back and it's a completely different race for them? And no, he did a really good job. So yeah, gotta give him props to that. Brad Keselowski, his teammate, not so much. Finished 20th. Still don't know what's going on with Brad. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'm Brad Keselowski. Maybe it's the driver owner having too much on his plate. Maybe that's what's plaguing Denny as well. You know,
I said this in one of the earlier shows when I was devastated that they were running so bad, because one of my season predictions was that they were going to win multiple races and they were going to run really well.
Yeah.
But I had a tinfoil hat in one of those episodes earlier this year where I think Brad is trying to push the limit on his 6 car and give all the information to the 17 and let the 17 thrive while he kind of figures stuff out. He has a championship.
Because he has the penalty and everything.
Exactly. He'll take the penalty, but they're also gathering information through all of this trouble and disaster. They're gathering information on what to do and what not to do. And I think maybe you'll see later on in the season, Brad might start coming back and having a little bit better, but I think he wants Chris Buescher to be the name of that team, not him, and transition himself to being a team owner and eventually get someone else in that 6 car. But that was my tinfoil.
I mean, that's a possibility.
He's taking the brunt of it for Buescher so he could succeed.
Our buddy Alex, who was also at the race with us on Sunday, is a Brad Keselowski fan. So he just jumped over to RFK with Brad. And I'm pretty sure it was him. Sunday was foggy. There was beer being drank. It was either him or it was another RFK fan I was talking to throughout the concert or something. I was talking to somebody, and they believe, I think it was Alex. He said it's a culture change thing there. Yeah. And that they're just kind of going through a whole culture change, you know, and
I believe that too.
Together, so they're kind of, you know, they're on their way there, but they're not nearly where they want to be yet. So I think that has a lot to do with it too.
I believe that because, you know, I've heard a lot of stories about Jack Roush and his unwillingness to bend that wallet a little bit and spend the money where it needs to be spent and everything. So who knows? Maybe it's like pulling teeth for Brad to get something done over there too. You know, just because his name's on the company doesn't mean he has a whole lot of control over what's going on. You know, we don't know how it's structured in the grand scheme of it all. And maybe Eric's right. Maybe he is kind of setting himself up to take over that ownership role solely and set up that car for another person. Or, I mean, looking back in history, in the modern era, there hasn't been a whole lot of successful driver owner combinations. I think the last great one was Alan Kawicki in the 90s, winning that championship. And then after he passed away, a whole lot of drivers started doing that. Darrell Waltrip had his own team that he owned and raced, and they didn't really have a whole lot of success. Bill Elliott, I believe, tried it at one point too. Just a lot of people kind of figured out that it's a lot harder to race the car and manage the car at the same time. And who knows, maybe there's a little bit of that going on. Only time will tell. It would be interesting to see if Chris Buescher does get himself into the playoffs with some good runs. And he's pretty good at super speedways too. So he has a shot to do it at Daytona right on the cutoff there. That is months down the line. But do you guys have anything else to add for this past race?
I just have one other thing that I brought up real quick about being at the racetrack and where our seats were. We were right at the Geico restart. So
that was awesome.
When we saw them, take off, so you were able to see who spun their tires, and it seemed like Truex was spinning his tires on that bottom on the inside a lot and holding up that inside lane. And I saw Ricky spun in that same position, right in that second row in that restart. He spun, and Erik was right behind him. And down that front stretch, I thought, Erik was going to push and cause a huge wreck because Ricky, he wasn't getting going. But just if you're looking for a ticket, I would highly suggest where we were because, man, right in that Geico restart, it was phenomenal hearing those cars mash that gas pedal and get on it. So that was the only other thing I had. It was excellent seats right in front of that Geico restart.
Yeah, Erik, I was going to say that too. I was going to suggest that if you're ever looking at tickets at really any track, try to, if you can, try to get on the Geico restart zone. When we first got up there Sunday, that was done by accident. I looked down, and the way that the Dover is banked, the inside pit wall is kind of facing right at you. And I looked down, and I'm like, "Yo, guys, do you realize what's right in front of us?" You're like, "What?" I'm like, "The Geico restart zone," and it ended up being a sick place to see a race. So I would highly suggest those as seats for the future.
Yeah, next year if you're getting Dover tickets, look for section 114 right around there. That's where the restart zone was.
Don't take our spot though. Row 24 is ours. We claim that spot.
Yeah, we're claiming the old Slick Willie 2 clocks row right there.
Yeah.
But speaking of restarting zones, Austin Cindric didn't see a whole lot of those on Sunday. Here on the Bump and Run podcast, everyone loves to talk about the winner Chase Elliott on a Tuesday. That feels like a Monday, but we also like to highlight the person that comes in last. And unfortunately, this week it was one rookie, Austin Cindric. He was a victim to Miles the Monster when he hit the wall early on Monday. They didn't get a chance to get it up to speed before the damaged vehicle clock ran out. So they were a victim to that. Of course, Austin Cindric still locked into the playoffs, being the Daytona 500 champion for this year. And hopefully they could get that ship back on course. Of course, we already talked about Team Penske's struggles this past weekend in Dover. Do you guys want to jump into the pick-a-lanes? If you're new to the show, the pick-a-lane, I give you a topic. You guys get to choose what side of the argument you are on. This week, I just have, I have two. One's real quick. But when it comes to aggressive drivers, we have a few well-known examples. In the Cup Series and in the Xfinity Series, Ty Gibbs, Joey Logano, Ross Chastain. No, that's what I'm going to say. Certain guys, do they get a pass for being aggressive depending on their backstory, and is it justified? Do we give a little bit more leeway to some aggressive guys and a little less to others? Do you think that's justified, or do you think it exists at all? What do you guys think about that?
I think that, to a point, I mean, it's all depending on who you are, what your status is with the fans. You know what I mean? Joe. Oh, and it also depends on how often you're doing it, what the scenario is. Are you a guy who wrecks someone on the 58th lap, or are you a guy who knocks someone out of the way going for a win on the last lap?
Yeah.
Are you a guy who does it more often than not? You look at a guy like Joey Logano, you got too many examples of him knocking someone out of the way at the wrong time of a race, where that's one of the reasons why he's not necessarily a fan favorite, why he's at the bottom of the popularity contest as far as that goes, because he's gained a bad reputation. Ty Gibbs, another one that you mentioned, who is so young in his career, he's already starting to get a bad reputation for knocking into everyone.
Yeah.
And so you got to be careful with who you are. And then you've got Ross Chastain, who's been doing it for years, going back to the Truck Series, Xfinity Series. He had a famous run-in with Kevin Harvick in the Xfinity Series 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He did it yesterday, where I thought the block that he threw on Martin Truex Jr. was all in fair game.
Yeah, I didn't think it was too egregious. It was last lap. You're battling for position.
It was the last lap. It was the last corner of the race. He threw a little bit of a block to save a spot for himself as far as points go. I didn't think it was anything crazy. So I don't know. I think it does depend on who you are, though. Yeah.
How about you, Erik? What are your thoughts on this one?
I don't know if it's like depends on who you are, more or less, like Matt said, how often you do it and when you do the move.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to who you are comes into play, I think it is very, very, very biased, because certain drivers, they don't talk about it and they just let it go like it's, oh, that's just the way he drives.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just him racing the way he races. If you don't like that, then deal with it. And the newest one that I'll add to your guys' list is Kyle Larson. I feel like Kyle Larson, he has been throwing some very egregious and very risky, dumb blocks moves at the end of races, like dooring people, and it's starting to gain popularity on social media, where people are, sharing their screenshots or their little clips of video of him moving people and purposely shoving people out of the way and driving not necessarily aggressive, but just idiotically in a certain point of the race, and a lot of his, yes, were near the end, but they weren't necessarily for a lead. They were just for position within.
And it's like
and I think
position.
Everyone's just like, Larson's Larson, so they kind of just let him go because he's very, very talented. But I think those people that are very talented, sometimes that kind of gives them a buffer when they are aggressive, because they have that talent. It kind of like, oh, well, they're talented, they win, so he can do that. But then you look at the Cody Wares, where it's like, he's not winning and he's smashing people, so screw that guy, which you could agree with. So I think if you have the talent and you're winning races, you could get away with it. And you do have a little bit of a buffer there when you do make those stupid moves. And like you guys said, Ross Chastain, I feel like we all were criticizing him on the show last year for being aggressive. And we've watched him mature and learn how to channel and harness that aggression for certain times. And that is where he got a little bit better, where he'll make that stupid aggressive move at the end for position for a win, not at lap 30 like he used to, fighting for 21st.
Yeah.
You kind of have to learn when and where to do it.
Yeah, to kind of back up what Erik was saying, as far as like it almost depends on how
figured out
successful
what's
you
in
are,
your hand.
How good of a driver you are. You know where I'm going with this, don't you?
I figured out what you're holding.
There's one man that did it better than anybody else. It's a shame that it took this long for us to bring him up in this conversation. The one, the only Dale Earnhardt Sr. He wrecked anyone and everyone in almost every race he was in, and he got away with it because he won, and he won, and he won.
If you're not watching on YouTube, you're just listening to the podcast. Matt just held up a $14 Dale Earnhardt Sr. number 3 shirt that he got at the Dover Walmart because we didn't plan on staying overnight, and he had to get clothes for the evening in the hotel. But you're right, though. You're right. But so I brought this whole thing up because I was thinking about Ross Chastain. Like Erik said last year, we were a little critical because Ross was showing a lot of promise near the middle of the season and near the end there, where you're like, oh, he's coming into his own in the Cup Series. He struggled early on, but then you'd see him like kind of block the leaders a little bit to stay like not get lapped and everything. And of course, there's the Truck Series, there's the Xfinity Series history, and now this year, we saw him battle for that win at Coda. And some people were a little critical of the movie put on AJ Allmendinger. I thought it was fine. It's for the win, you know. Then we saw last week, you know, the door bumper clear guys were real critical of the move he made to stay on the lead lap at Talladega. I think they said it was just a bonehead move. And I think Ross said, like, yeah, but I don't care. I'm doing what I have to do, you know. Yesterday we saw him do a little bit of a late block on Martin Truex Jr. It wasn't terribly egregious. It's not like some of the Daytona Logano blocks we've seen in the past. We're really shitting on Joey Logano this episode. So if you're a Logano fan, I apologize. Usually we're not this hard on him, but I feel like kinda because, you know, like Dale Earnhardt, you know, he came from those grassroots. Ross Chastain, his family's a bunch of watermelon farmers down in Florida. You know, he's got that blue collar that you want to root for, versus a guy like Joey Logano, who's super young, kind of like Ty Gibbs is right now, and kind of got, you know, pushed around as a young driver by some of these veterans, and then just started not taking it, you know, and he still holds that to them, you know, 12 years later as a 31, 32-year-old guy, where, you know, he has no friends on the track. Even his own teammates don't seem to really like him all that much, you know? So it made me wonder, you know, do we give a pass for some of these moves because it's certain guys? I know in my heart, like, I'm real critical of Corey LaJoie, because I feel like he throws terrible blocks all the time, makes boneheaded moves all the time, just trying to stay on, you know, the lead lap sometimes. And I'm like, man, what are you doing? Like read your equipment, you know? So I don't know, man. It just got me thinking. I thought it would be a little interesting to see what your guys' thoughts were. That are we a little too hard on some guys and give a pass a little bit too much for other guys because of their background? Like Ty Gibbs, Silver Spoon, he's not getting any passes, I don't think, from anybody, you know?
But at the same time, he's winning, and I think that's where, if you're finishing top 10, top 5, and winning, I think that's where that buffer comes in play.
And the attitude too, because Logano wins plenty. It's the attitude, it's the likability. I think that, like I said earlier, there's a couple different factors that go into the way we look at it.
All right.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, you know, it is what it is. And
you want to know what? I think right now Ross Chastain is battling for wins more than he ever has in any series. You know, I feel like he hasn't finished outside the top 5 in a while. Maybe once here or there, you know, and that's it. Matt, if you could find those stats real quick, they're not needed, but it would be interesting. And one last thing, we're heading into the Darlington throwback race. I'm not really too hyped about any of these throwback paint schemes. Has throwback weekend run its course? Are you guys over it? Are you excited? I don't know. Do the paint schemes matter to you anymore at this point?
You know what? Not as much as they used to. We talk about not adding certain tracks and doing this again somewhere else because it takes away from the one event that, you know, you do have, and you want to single that event out. And, you know, this throwback weekend was one of those weekends that you really look forward to. You know, it's summertime. I usually have a party, and, you know, you have that feel, you know what I mean? The barbecue, you're outside, it's warm, you know what I mean? And yeah, it just having it this early in the spring, I was actually caught off guard, that it was, this coming week. And, you know, as far as the paint schemes go, I think some of them are knocking it out of the park, and others are just doing it and putting something together because it's that weekend, and they're not going all out. I feel like the teams used to go a little bit more all out for it. I've never been to Darlington for it, but I wonder if that same feel now, year 7, that, you know, what are they doing around there to keep it fresh and keep it new? And I would have liked to see them have a leniency on these numbers and the paint schemes. Just to for one weekend, like if you want to do something, but you know, the designers are getting creative with some of these, and there's a lot that are not so good,
yeah,
and very few that are, oh my god, that's excellent. and then just a bunch of like mediocre, let's just throw something together schemes, and a ton that aren't even, known yet. Like Erik Jones won the fan vote last year with his John Andretti, throwback scheme, and he hasn't even been announced as a paint scheme that he's running anything yet. So
yeah, I feel like I haven't seen a lot of guys paint schemes yet.
Yeah, so like I think just in general in the sport, I think it is losing its flavor, it's losing its touch a little bit, and I think that's due to NASCAR going a different route and doing the clash, doing the dirt, doing the road. I think they're trying to mix it up a little bit, and you know what? I could see it maybe possibly getting phased out after this year or next year.
How about you, Matt?
Before I give my answer, to tie a bow on the Ross Chastain thing, 7 out of the first 11 races this year, he has finished in the top 5 or better. So yeah, outstanding. I knew he was having a good season, but until I saw that, like, wow, he's having a phenomenal season. So I wanted to tie a bow on that.
And those top 5s are like second, third,
first. Yeah.
So it's not even like, oh, he's sitting fourth, fifth. No, he's up there battling. So.
Yeah.
And speaking of throwbacks, his throwback is fucking sick this weekend. Him and Daniel Suarez are throwing it back to Dale Jr. and Dale Sr. when they raced against each other for the first time in Japan in those Coca-Cola red and black cars, the number 1 and the number 3. Of course, Daniel Suarez is going to be 99 in the red one, and then Ross Chastain holding on to that number 1 car. So that's going to be real exciting. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. To answer the pick a lane, I believe it has run its course, the throwback weekend for me. And it sucks for me to say that because I get so hyped. All 3 of us are big paint scheme guys. We love the paint schemes. And when they start unleashing them, out on social media and stuff, it's so cool to see some of them. Some of them are so well done. But what happened with me, and the reason why I'm not so into it, and it started last year for me, is because for me, part of the allure, part of the coolness of throwback weekend was it being on Labor Day weekend. There was just some sort of throwback feel, retro, nostalgic feel of Labor Day weekend. It's the end of the summer. You're, maybe one of your last few cookouts of the year, especially up here in the Northeast. You have a cookout. You're looking into the fall. You get this throwback, really cool race where you're seeing all these paint schemes that you grew up with. And it's just really, really cool thing. And then for them to take it away and put it into the early part of the season, it's kind of a bummer. It was a bummer last year for me. It's a bummer for me this year. The other part about it being on Labor Day weekend is that you had the majority of the season, at least the whole regular season, building up to the throwback weekend. Slowly here and there, you would see the paint schemes get rolled out. But now that it's the 12th race of the year, we're only here in the beginning of May. Everything feels maybe rushed a little bit and maybe not so well thought out. And I would love for them if they can move it back to that Labor Day weekend. I don't care that it's also a playoff race and they don't want to take away from the fact that it's a playoff race. Spare me that. Give me the throwback weekend on Labor Day weekend and give us that back.
I feel like you made a good point too. I feel like some of these teams are just kind of scrambling last minute to throw something together. It feels like you wasted all your weekend away when you should have did your homework on Friday, and now it's Sunday at 10:30 and you're tired and you're just trying to figure out. It doesn't help too that it's Mother's Day weekend. I'm not a fan of us racing on Mother's Day. I'd much rather see a Saturday night race before Mother's Day like we've seen in the past. But yeah, I agree, man. I'd like to see it return back to the Southern 500. I don't like the spring throwback date. I don't know. Just it doesn't feel right. But I think maybe it has just run its course too. Are people aren't thinking creatively enough to find a cool paint scheme. You know?
Other thing too is those first few years, that was the only Darlington race of the year. So it was like epic. It was the buildup. We're going to Darlington. It's the Southern 500. It's throwback paint schemes. And now we go there twice. And I don't mean to offend anyone who that might be their favorite track. I like Darlington plenty, but I don't know if it's a track that we should be going to twice a year.
No, there's a reason why they got rid of the spring date a long time ago. They didn't bring it back until after the pandemic when we kind of relied on Darlington. And thankfully they were there for us to get those races in. I think we did like 4 races at Darlington in 2020 just to make up dates. But I agree, man. I like Darlington as an endurance race, 500 miles, Southern 500 crown jewel. I don't need a 400 miler in the springtime. I want it hot. I want it the Labor Day weekend. I want to be out at Erik's, garage drinking and sweating and enjoying the summer night with my buddies. And this week I'm gonna miss half the race because I gotta go enjoy dinner with my mommy. So nothing wrong with that. It's just I don't know. It kind of dampens things. Hamperings. I don't know. All I know is, speaking of Darlington, it's time to move on because that is where we are heading this week. Friday night trucks on track 7:30 under the lights on FS1 for the Dead on Tools 200. Saturday Xfinity on track 1:30 on FS1 for the Mahindra Rorixer 200. And then Sunday, Mother's Day, 3:30 on FS1 for the Goodyear 400. Practice and qualifying, of course, are going to be this Saturday morning, 10:30. And we got some picks to go over. So for Dover, to recap, I picked old Slick Willie 2 clocks. He only got me 19 points. I came in last, so I'm picking first this week. Matt, you picked Martin Truex Jr. He got you 38 points. And Erik, Daytona Ron, picked the race winner, Chase Elliott, for 50 points. Congratulations. If you listen to Daytona Ron and you bet some units on him, you made some money this week. So hopefully someone took your advice, and big congratulations to you. But you, unfortunately, now pick last this week. So, Matt, give us the stats and the lines so far on this Tuesday night leading into Darlington so we can make some bets before practice and qualifying, of course. Things always subject to change after practice and qualifying when it comes to the betting lines.
Absolutely. So just to make it quick and simple, I took the top 10 with their favorites of where they're at here tonight, Tuesday, May 3rd. Obviously, these will change. If you like any of these odds, you're listening to us early in the week, whether it be Wednesday or Thursday when you're listening to us, and you like these odds, jump on them before they change. These lines are brought to you, provided by DraftKings. Alex Bowman, Joey Logano, and Ross Chastain round out your top 10. All three of those guys right now are plus 1,400. I like those odds. Again, Ross Chastain running really, really well. Who's to say he's not going to win? Then you look at Ryan Blaney and Slick Willie 2 clocks. William Byron are both plus 1,200. You've got Kyle Busch at a plus 1,000. And then you come into your top 4 here of Chase Elliott, our race winner here at Dover at plus 800. Denny Hamlin, who had a rocket ship at Dover before his wheel literally came off, also plus 800. Martin Truex Jr., who was one of those cars that at a certain point yesterday could have been considered the favorite to win the race. He had a great long run car. You get a lot of good long runs at Darlington. He's definitely someone to watch out for. He's plus 700. And then it seems like every week our favorite is Kyle Larson, and he's at plus 500 to win the race.
All right. Since I go first, I'm staying away from Kyle Larson. I don't know why they keep putting him as the favorite every week. I know last year he ran really well, but I'm just not seeing that same type of performance out of him. I don't know how you guys feel about that one. Darlington, though, for me, is a track. Usually I like to look at the veterans. And early on, I was thinking Martin Truex Jr. He dominated this race last Mother's Day. Didn't really do as well in the fall when we returned. Denny Hamlin dominated that race in the fall. So I was thinking him, but his luck is just really shit. And I wanted to stay in the Toyota camp, and I'm really liking the plus 1,000 odds. So I'm going with KFB Kyle fucking Busch in Darlington. That's my pick.
God. You scared me when you started talking about veterans, because I too am going after a veteran, somebody who I didn't even mention in those top 10, not even a top 10 favorite according to DraftKings, somebody who has been, I think I told Erik yesterday, he's Mr. Consistency. Somebody who, once I look at those Darlington stats, the last 6 races there, he jumped off the page to me. Yeah. Somebody who has 2 wins in the last 6 races, 5 top 5s in the last 6 races, and an average finish of 3.3, the best in the field. Hey, Shrey, Kevin Harvick's going to get it done in Darlington. That number 4 finds its way to victory lane. He's been consistent this year. I think he's starting to find some speed.
Yeah.
He gets it done. The veteran gets to tame that lady in black.
Yeah, he had a really good looking car this weekend in Dover too. I was pretty impressed. He has been pretty consistent in the top 10. So how about you, Erik? Who are you picking to win Darlington this week?
It's a good week for me to pick last because it doesn't matter. I knew he was going to be there to get picked this week. And I had an omen this morning when I saw that radioactive being replayed and reshown of Richard Petty in that 43 getting black flagged. Now he's going to be in the flag stand as the honorary starter. And, he's sitting there at 199. Needs to get that 200th win. And I think Erik Jones won here in 2019. He has back-to-back top 10s. A lot of good momentum coming into this weekend.
Yeah.
It's a rough racetrack. Dover was rough. He found a handle on the car. They're working on it throughout the race, getting better and better as these weeks go on and as the race goes on. I think Erik Jones in that 43 car gets Richard Petty as the honorary starter, his 200th win at the throwback weekend in Darlington.
I like it. Of course, he's a Southern 500 winner in the past. And I know how happy that would make you. I feel like you're betting with your heart there, but there's a lot of thought behind that one. I'm just looking to see what the odds are for him going into Darlington before practice and qualifying. Now I'm trying to kill some time here. He is.
I like that. I like that. I'll try to filibuster for Whitey while he finds it. He's been running really good, and you never know. There's no saying never. This car has really helped equalize and bring up the true talented guys, and Erik Jones is one of the talented guys we have in the field. So, Erik, a couple weeks ago, I went over some loop data with you for the season, and he's consistently one of the 15 or 12 best guys out there. So there's nothing saying that he can't do that this weekend.
And right now he's plus 4,000. So a great bet to get in today. Maybe even just for $1, you might win what, $40? Is that what it comes out to? And if you want to be a little safer, he's plus 500 for a top 5. So if you think he can get a top 5, throw a unit down. That might be worth it. I don't know. I think that's a better pick than some people give you credit for there, Erik. And of course, you just picked this past week's winner in Chase Elliott. So you have the momentum on your side. You're moving forward. So we will find out who will it be. We're 11 races into the season. We have 9 different winners so far locked into the playoffs. Austin Cindric, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, Slick Willie 2 Clocks has 2 wins, Ross Chastain 2 wins, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and Chase Elliott all locked themselves into the playoffs. We're racing in Darlington this Sunday on Mother's Day. Who will it be? Can Kyle Busch get his second win of the season? Can Kevin Harvick get his first win of the season? Or can Erik Jones get his first win in the 43 car and the 200th win for Petty Motorsports in the 43? We will find out this Sunday on Mother's Day, 3:30 on FS1 for the Goodyear 400. And of course, we will break it all down for you Monday night right here on the Bump and Run podcast. For Matt the Statman Reilly, for Erik Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying have a good night.